Oh, man. Hello everyone, my name is Craig Chamberlin. Will Xbox actually be successful this time around? There's been a lot of scary announcements and some interesting ones, to say the least. We're going to talk about whether or not you always have to be online or whether or not you'll be able to play used games on your Xbox One tonight, only on the PCM Tech Help Show. Microsoft. How we adore you sometimes. I did watch the full Xbox reveal. I had the luxury of watching it right on my live stream. It was in the middle of the day, I know, so don't ask how I got to watch it. I did get to watch it, though. The Xbox Live stream. It wasn't very long, but there also wasn't much that was very exciting about it. But there are some important facts that people should take from the Xbox One event, and we're going to talk about those on tonight's show. Remember, PCM Tech Talk Live is the live segment of PCM Tech Help Show dedicated to you, the fan. So make sure you join the community at PCMTechHelp.com/community, or during the live streams on Monday and Thursday, join in the show and the conversation right on YouTube, PCMTechHelp.com/YouTube, where you guys get to be part of the show and post questions as I discuss it, and we look at the questions right here on it. And it looks like we have a good turnout so far already. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight related to gaming systems and the future of console gaming. Now, if you've been following the show for the past couple months we've been running it, you know that I've had a lot of things to say about the always online concept and the future of console gaming in general. Console gaming has always been one of those gaming systems that has allowed for the flexibility and the comfort of simplicity. Unfortunately, the latest announcements from Xbox Live start to illustrate it pushing more towards the PC gaming movement rather than the convenience of being a console system. Some of the other announcements they made are more inclined to make you think it's more of an entertainment system, such as television and movies, than it is a gaming system. But let's not judge that too fast, because remember, E3 is coming up on the 11th of June, which means, according to Microsoft, we are getting 15 exclusive titles upon the release of the Xbox One, and as you know, I'm a big fan of games. So, the only way I think Microsoft can overcome its current hurdles that we're going to discuss tonight is if they have a good enough lineup of games that will draw in the gamer. The fact is the Xbox One, which is a name they committed to, apparently the One is a reboot name, and their idea was to create a fresh new product. Why is this a problem for the gaming industry? Well, because the Xbox 360 is wildly successful as it is. There's no real need for a reboot if the original boot worked fine. The Xbox 360 is one of the most popular systems in the United States of America, and there's very few gamers who are dissatisfied with the current state of the system. Reboots don't really make much sense in that context, unless you're trying to create a different product for a different market. That being said, Microsoft has kind of segued into a different market. Perhaps they're trying to capture additional traditional or casual gamer market in their announcement of their merger with EA, which, by the way, is one of the worst companies in gaming. They were voted one of the top 10 worst companies in gaming this year. But EA and apparently, EA and Xbox are going to be working exclusively together on the upcoming releases of the new Maddens and FIFAs and the interactivity with the Kinect. Not a very comforting thought for a lot of us gamers, because we're not big fans of EA. They don't have much interest in quality of games anymore. They're more interested in exploiting games, aka Origin. For those of you who don't know what Origin is, it's EA's online service trying to be like Steam, and it's a way for digital rights management to control licensing for systems. So this partnership scares me, but we don't know the exact specifics of their digital rights management system. Let me tell you what we do know about the DRM system on the Xbox 360. It will require an internet connection. I know that there's been a lot of debate going on back and forth, but here's the wording that they changed around. It does not require a constant internet connection. So in other words, no, you don't need to be always on the internet. Very true. But pay attention to the verbiage. What they do say, and I've seen this on a number of interviews since the release from Microsoft and individuals, is your computer does have to have access to the internet at least once every 24 hours in order to verify the licenses on your gaming system. That's something that everyone should consider when they're going out to purchase their next system. Now, PlayStation has laid claim that this is not going to be an option on their system, which makes them instantly more appealing, in my opinion, to every single console gamer out there. But have we gotten a full confirmation on that from PlayStation? Pretty much. It's highly likely that that's not going to be a problem with the PlayStation, so they win in that camp of the internet access. In other words, you will not be able to play your Xbox One without an internet connection. It just won't need to be constantly connected, only once a day. Interesting. So let's segue into the used game market. I had to do some extensive research on this because GameStop isn't completely dissatisfied with the way that Microsoft is handling used games. Now, here's a company I would have expected to be absolutely peeved that Microsoft is looking into an internet-only or internet verification DRM system, because that means death for their used game market, yes? And that's where they make most of their money. Well, as it turns out, GameStop hasn't really disclosed exactly how the used games are going to work on the Microsoft system, but it kind of scares me that they aren't dissatisfied with it, and Microsoft claims you will still get to use play games. So if these two groups are tightly knit and talking to each other behind the scenes, what this tells me is they're not only planning on selling used games, but rather than selling them, monopolizing the market for used games so that Microsoft has complete control over who gets to buy used games, at what prices, and they work with vendors directly to determine how we get access to those used games. So, if it isn't the end of the used game market through the Xbox One, it is certainly the first nail in the coffin for used games, which unfortunately is a big deal for console gamers. Console gaming is about having your buddies over at your house and playing games together. PC gaming traditionally has worked fine with only having a game installed on a single computer system, because to be honest with you, only one of us usually has a system powerful enough to play the games to begin with. So as PC gamers, we're peeved a little bit at first, but we realized that the pirating had caught up to us, and to be absolutely honest with you, Steam did such a good job with its content release program, and they timed it so well by paralleling it with real content and real serial key CDs that it really wasn't as hard of a blow on us at any given time. This is why I talked about the Xbox release and why it would be a big mistake to make it an online licensing system this time around, because the console community is not yet ready for an internet-based console that requires an internet connection to play for your digital rights management, also known as DRM. This is a big mistake on Microsoft's front, and I have a feeling it's going to hit them very hard, unless, of course, like I said, they have the games. As for hardware specifications, there's not much to talk about there. Microsoft touts its 8 GB of memory, which PlayStation also has its 8 GB of memory, only PlayStation has better memory. PlayStation also has a better processor, which people claim it's the same processor, just overclocked, but hey, that means it's still a better performing processor. Microsoft operating system also has layered operating systems that handle the entertainment side of it and the gaming side of it and the live side of it, which also means more memory will be used up and consumed on the Xbox One system than on the PlayStation system. What this means is you will get less performance out of the Xbox One system than the PlayStation 4 system out of the box. Now, one thing Microsoft is doing well, and PlayStation jumped on board with this, is they did stick with the x86 architecture, which means developers are finally going to be happy programming for the PlayStation, but it's the same architecture for the Xbox. So developers who've been working for Xbox 360 will be able to program for the Xbox One with ease. So that's a good sign on both fronts, because PlayStation made a big mistake on their previous system release on the PlayStation 3 with releasing a system that basically was not programmable by developers, which is why all the games were so buggy. So things are looking pretty good for PlayStation right now, and okay for Microsoft. But we only know what we know right now. My question is to you guys. What are your thoughts on this upcoming system, and why would you purchase an Xbox One? It has basically established itself as an entertainment-based system more than a gaming system at this point. At E3, we will know for sure whether it's going to be a true gaming system or not. A couple other things that they did announce that you might want to be aware of is they did announce that the Kinect will be required to play. So if you're a privacy nut, you won't be a fan of this. The Kinect has to be plugged in at all times and activated for your console to work. The Kinect also contains a full 1080p high-definition camera and is able to detect sensors such as facial recognitions, heartbeats, and probably other things going on in your living room. Now, a system that requires an internet connection and a sensor of that quality is a little concerning to some people who are concerned about privacy. Personally, I don't think this will be a big issue, but if you are concerned about price, you should probably be made aware of that. As for PlayStation and its used games, it's pretty much been confirmed that it will support used games on the level of being able to pick it up, walk over to your buddy's house, put it in the tray, and be able to play it from there. Now, the way that the licensing works on the Xbox One is that your game key will actually be registered directly to your Xbox Live account, which means even though you have a copy of the game, you have to install the copy onto your hard drive to play it. You won't need the disc anymore. And then you have to register the key to your Xbox Live account. Now, since your Xbox Live account has your key, it will supposedly be able to be playable on that console by everybody in your family, which means you'll probably have to have subset accounts on the primary account, so that way it can establish and verify through rights management who is actually in your family for that particular key. What this means for used games, though, is there somehow has to be a way for that used game key to be deactivated, put back onto the market, and reactivated. As of right now, the idea that's being tossed around is that there will be a fee associated with a reactivation. Whether that fee will be a discounted price or the full price of the game, we do not know. Or whether that fee will be licensed through companies such as GameStop or third-party companies for used game consoles, we also don't know. So really, there's still a lot of things with this that we don't know, but the fact that we don't know them is very concerning, because this should be stuff we know, and if we don't know it, it means they're embarrassed to talk about it. That's the big concern. So at the end of the day, where do we stand on console gaming? It was exactly what I was afraid of. Xbox decided that they're going to go with an online licensing system on this time around. It's going to absolutely kill console gaming initially for that system. It will push a lot of console gamers to the PlayStation 4, so I think it'll be mostly a hurt for Microsoft. I'm not saying that we're not ever going to get to digital rights management permanently for console gaming. I think that's inevitably where we're going to end up. I just think Microsoft's pulling the trigger a little too soon, because to be honest with you, this is not what the primary core audience is ready for. Consoles are not are not ready for an internet-based only system. And PlayStation knows this. Nintendo knows this. Apparently Microsoft missed the memo, or they've been talking to EA a little too much. So let's see what you guys have going on here. I've talked a little bit about the Xbox. I think the graphics are going to be solid. The Live is probably still going to be awesome. The Xbox Live features. Yes, you can do all kinds of cool wavy hand things, but to be honest with you, I never really cared for that on the 360 anyways. But maybe if you did, you'll like those new features. They've got new features related to the fantasy football, which I don't fully understand. I don't know how many football people they have playing Xbox. Maybe it's a bigger audience than I think, but at the very least, that's not a feature that appeals to the hardcore gamer. And the question is, are they trying to appeal to the hardcore gamer, or are they not? So let's take a look at the comments here, because I've basically gone off on my 13-minute rant about Xbox, and it is Xbox night here. And we've talked about some things going on here, and I want to get everybody's feedback on this so that we can continue the discussion throughout the night. There are some other stories we can cover as well, so let's see how we do. Lawrence Eckert says, I don't know. Who? Lord Lightning, welcome back. Lord Lightning says, hello. Steve Wheeler, welcome back. Natural Nerd, he says he's optimizing your devices, clearing out caches, temp files. Looks like he's got some suggestions for one of the previous series we've done. And it looks like those are some good suggestions. He says you can get rid of malware and bloatware in your devices, disable startup items, turn off devices that are using the internet that you're not making. Nature Nerd, I highly recommend you join the community, PCMTTL.com/community. It sounds like you have some valuable information to add. We're up to 400 members as of today. Congratulations, everybody at the community, for making that possible. Join the community and share your suggestions there in detail, and we'll see what we can do about making it public to the community as a whole. Let's see what else we got here. Post any questions here. That was from me. Welcome back, Lord Lightning and Lawrence Eckert. Watch the servers go down and your AV guy won't call for 45 minutes. That would be bad. Lord Lightning, welcome back. I think I've already said that twice. Adam Kraftkick, welcome back. Matthew Moore, the YouTube guy. Welcome back, Matthew. Compton Sue, welcome back. Lord Lightning says it's been 50 geek years. Lawrence Eckert says, Craig, get a shave. It's really obvious. Pickles and mayonnaise. Oh my. Oh my, I already did shave. That's kind of the bad part of that. It already grew back. That's unfortunate. Spec, yes, welcome back to the show. Adam Kraftkick says, PlayStation 4 for the win. Lord Lightning says, the Bill Gates Mini. Don't know how that has to do with it, but Bill Gates doesn't want to spend his $1 billion on a PS4. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he does. What else do we have to add here to the conversation? Looks like we've got... EA is struggling in a category that they ruled for decades, sports. Interesting. I agree with that. Hang on, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. I actually skipped over a couple of people's questions. Welcome, Nature Nerd. I keep getting mixed up. I'm going back to the old format, guys. I'm having following you guys. It keeps bumping me to the top on that one. Bill Gates, blah, blah, blah. I never programmed that in weeks. That's not normal. Sorry, I left my comments. Oh, okay, never mind. Tom, who am I? What's my name? Who are you? Hey, that's my wife. Disturbing, Tom Prokes, but welcome back to the show. Adam Kraftkick. So with Xbox One, you shake your hands in the air, and it opens and closes programs. Wait a minute, that's a new feature? Technically, it's not. It was on the Xbox 360, but it does look fancier on the new Xbox One interface. And don't get me wrong, I think the Kinect interface is a cool idea, but I think it's more of a feature than it is actually a core experience for people interested in buying a system. The Kinect was never a major selling point for the majority of people who owned an Xbox 360. We all went out and bought a Kinect because it was a cool add-on to our already existing system. The fact that they've decided to take this as the primary gateway for their next system and the primary marketing point of their next system really makes me feel like there's a major disconnect between the marketing team of Microsoft and the gaming community as a whole. Catalyst Leader says, thanks for all you do, Craig. I was wondering if you plan on doing any programming tutorials. Yes. I am actually planning on doing programming tutorials in the future. Right now in the pipeline, I've got 10 of the Faster 8 series videos done. They're in the pipeline to be uploaded in the upcoming week, so hopefully you guys will get to see those soon. After that, I may be doing a Linux-based tutorial. I've talked a little bit about that with Lawrence Eckert, Tom, Matthew Moore, and I'm also going to be looking into doing a web development and programming tutorial alongside there at some point as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the show. A lot of things are happening over the next couple months. Brandon Horton says, EA is struggling in a category that they ruled for decades, sports. Well, here's the thing about this whole EA issue. EA is a terrible company when it comes to actual gamer influence and gamer interface. EA is a company that's based on solely buying out franchises and basically milking them for everything that they're worth. So when I was watching the Xbox release video, the whole live stream, it really concerned me that the first presenter that was at the Xbox reveal was EA, and the first big emphasis on the show was Kinect interaction with sports games. While sports games are entirely entertaining, and they are good, don't get me wrong, the Maddens are fun, just as fun as any other game. The fact that they've gone out of their way to make EA a primary partner in the release of this new system should raise huge red flags to anybody who's out in the gaming community right now. EA does not have a good history of caring about what we think. They don't have a good history of taking care of their franchises. They don't have a good history of developing decent games after the initial releases have already been developed. They don't have a good history of retaining quality talent. And they don't have a good history of customer support, as well as, let's see here, customer support and non-fraudulent interaction. Myself alone, I've had fraudulent actions on Origin twice in my short time I've actually had the service. So that's the kind of situation we're looking in as a primary partner and the primary pioneering of our next evolution of gaming. I want nothing to do with it. I want absolutely nothing to do with it, and that's a huge scare away for me, and I hope it is for the majority of gamers as well. I think the gaming community is smart enough to realize this. That's why the initial responses were pretty negative from the gaming community. Brandon Horton, excellent point that they are struggling, but I think they're struggling more on the actual branding side, and they're really having trouble retaining quality in their name. Matthew Moore, Microsoft's model, if it ain't broke, fix it until it is. Now here's the weird thing about Microsoft's philosophy on this new Xbox One system. You have the Microsoft Xbox, which was the true Xbox One. Then you have the Xbox 360, which was a natural evolution of the Xbox. But now you go backwards in numbers to the Xbox One, or the One. Now their idea or philosophy behind the One is that it's the first of its kind. It's a new evolution of the product. But if it was a true evolution of the product, it would have taken the core components of the previous product and built upon those. It wouldn't have taken a slapped-on Kinect-based sensor feature of the product that came at the tail end of the product release of the Xbox 360 and make that the primary emphasis of the product. That being said, the Xbox One is not a true progression of the Xbox name in its current form. We won't know if it actually is capable of doing the gaming features we want it to do until June 11th, and that is scary. So we'll see how it goes. Brandon Horton says, we hate Origin, by the way. We do hate Origin because it's a wannabe Steam. Steam has reliability, it has security, it's stable. It's really a great service for DRM management, and it makes going to licensing only via digital downloads actually fun and appealing. The deals on there are substantial. Now, I've heard a lot of people floating around out there saying, well, this is where the PC market is. That's why Microsoft's doing it. They're ready for this. It's got to go this way. This is the only option they have. Well, here's the thing. Steam started doing it when it wasn't the only option that they had. And the reason they started doing it was because it was absolutely necessary to keep the PC market afloat. Developers didn't even want to write for PCs anymore. That's just simply not the case anymore with consoles. It was never a problem to begin with. Pirating was never a problem, or rarely a problem in the console market. This is quite simply a money grab, and you can quote me on that. Xbox One internet-based DRM management is quite simply a money grab. Microsoft can dictate the license. They can dictate what happens to it when it's new. They can dictate what happens to it when it's used. They can dictate what happens to your downloadable content when you've deactivated. They have complete control over all of the licensing that occurs in your game, whether it's right when you purchase it or when you decide to sell it 2-3 months down the line. And at the end of the day, that's what they want. And that's what I said 2 months ago was a terrible idea, and gamers were going to reject on every single level. And it's still the way they went, as far as we know. As far as I can tell. They really haven't announced anything otherwise. It's actually been confirmed. You have to have internet connection. Let's see what else we got here. The whole Xbox used games kind of gives it a premium feel, but I'm not sure I will get it. They don't really tell us what this used game story is, but the fact that they're not telling us should scare us. Used games are going to be micromanaged, essentially. If they have your activation, you are going to be at their mercy to handle that activation. And you think they're going to just give it to you? No. They're not going to give you control of this. And a lot of people would like to think they would, but I'd like to see whether or not that's actually going to happen. If they do, I'll be pleasantly surprised. And I'll be the first one to talk about it right here on the show after June 11th. But as of right now, I think if they were going to do that, they would have said something. X-Lord Lightning says, why am I studying physics? Wait a minute. Physics is important. You should keep studying it. Adam Craftcake, no subscription fee for the PlayStation 4. Absolutely true. And the PlayStation 4, as we talk, is becoming more and more appealing. You don't require an internet connection to play. Your online gaming service will be free, which I'm going to miss Xbox Live. I loved Xbox Live. The console's graphics are core-based and actual solid, much better than the Xbox One. Not much better, but better than the Xbox One. It has development for x86 processors, which means we're not going to have to deal with the same PlayStation 3 headaches we did with development. Developers are going to actually enjoy programming for it. And they're making a gaming system. If you saw the PlayStation 4 reveal, you might not have seen the console, sure, whatever, but we did see what their main focus was. It was games. We saw real gameplay footage. We didn't see any real gameplay footage other than trailers at the Xbox reveal, so we really don't fully know the capabilities of the graphics just yet, and we won't see them until June 11th. Was that a wise decision? Why even have an Xbox reveal if you're not going to show games? It's an Xbox. It's a console. It's a console system. Brandon Horton says, good luck, Microsoft. And it could be a big, big, bad news for him. It could be big, bad news for him. Oh, yeah, X-Lord Lightning says, I heard it can't run 360 games. Pain in the A drive. Well, here's the thing about Here's the thing about, and this is something I did want to talk about in tonight's show. I'm really glad you reminded me of it, is when you're talking about legacy support, pretty much all the consoles have abandoned the idea. PlayStation 4 is not going to support legacy games. They said there's going to be a cloud-based service so you can actually play your old games. The Xbox One also claims that you can't play your legacy games as well. Really, that's not going to ever change. I think consoles, as far as these developers are concerned, they're completely abandoning the idea of previous generation gaming consoles, games being able to play on their consoles. If you want a truly legacy experience, you're going to have to seriously consider looking into PC gaming. Steam is going to be releasing, with third-party support, I think, something called the Steam Box. And the Steam Box is going to be a television-based PC gaming system, around $500 at the start, that will play a lot of PC games. I think it uses a Linux kernel as well. We'll have to ask Lawrence Eckhart about that. But I think this Microsoft thing actually pushes this Steam Box or this PC gaming idea back to the forefront. Do we really want to go with the Microsoft Xbox, who's just now breaking into this DRM management system, when we can just say, you know what, forget it. I'll spend $400 to $500 on a decent computer system. It might not be top of the line, but it'll play PC games. And the PC game market through Steam has already perfected, essentially, the DRM management system. So rather than mess around with this whole idea of being a guinea pig for $400 with Microsoft out of the box, we may want to strongly consider moving into PC gaming again, because the DRM system's already set up, solidified, and we know what we're going to get. That's something to seriously consider. Whereas if you're more interested in just console-based gaming, you go to the PlayStation 4. You're going to get the best of both worlds from two alternate products, essentially. Question, did Microsoft pay Sony to use the Blu-ray? I would guess, but I haven't heard any confirmations on that. It is their technology. Rebel Dew says, Xbox none. Adam Graphic says, well, the PS4 costs $399, so I'm going to go with the PS4. I don't know if they've fully confirmed the price. Have they, Craftkick? $399 sounds about right. I think the Xbox One will be the same price, if not a little more, but I'm guessing it's going to be around $400. Brandon Horton says, I've been an Xbox fan since the release of 360. I will not be getting the One. And I agree with you completely. I've had an Xbox 360 since a year after it came out. Gears of War, oh my goodness, amazing. I've loved my Xbox 360. Nobody was more hurt by this entire release than me. I've been an avid Xbox 360 fanboy, essentially, for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I don't think there's been one person I've said, don't go, buy an Xbox. Buy an Xbox. You're a gamer, buy an Xbox. You get literally an amazing experience on the Xbox for the money right now, especially right now. It is an amazing system. And the Xbox One does everything it didn't do. And that's what I'm really concerned about with the Xbox One. Suppressed Coding says, from what I've heard, neither of them are going to be backwards compatible. And that's absolutely true, Suppressed Coding. Neither of them are going to be backwards compatible. They're going to have some way to create an environment so that you can probably download or buy the previous games for on-demand gaming, but that still hasn't been revealed as of yet. Now, something on that note for developers is that Microsoft has also completely scrapped the idea of independent developers. Remember how in the Xbox 360 where you could go in and see games programmed and developed by independent developers? So independent developers could start programming with the 360 and then move on to bigger development schemes? They scrapped it. There was no mention in the reveal of there being any kind of independent developer platform on the new Xbox One, which means that they haven't really come up with any ideas for letting the new programmers coming into the programming environment program for the Xbox One experience. Awesome. PlayStation 4, on the other hand, has made a huge emphasis on independent development, as well as, of course, PC development. But both of them systems are actually seeing that these younger developers, the ones working on these independent games, are the future of game development. So Microsoft has essentially alienated an entire development franchise that they had available to them on the 360 like that. More bad news for the system, in my opinion. Matthew Moore says, I never liked the Xbox. I've always been a Sony fan. I've owned Sony products and never had an issue. I figured, why change now? Well, that's true. If you've always been a fan of Sony, the PlayStation 3 was a really good system. It did have its own bugs. It had its issues. I thought the Xbox was a better experience through Live. I thought it was worth the $5, $6 a month. Xbox just was really, really a solid system, and I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It's one of the best systems that has ever been released. They had a series of great titles that were released exclusively for the Xbox. They had a series of unique and standalone titles like Gears of War, Mass Effect. Those were all individually at first, Xbox exclusives. And so there was a lot of really good Microsoft Studio releases and a lot of really good franchises that came from the Xbox. Assassin's Creed, and then it moved over to PlayStation 4. But there was also some great franchises on the PlayStation 3 as well. We had Uncharted, of course, which was one of the best franchises ever made, in my opinion. So, I mean, really, it was a good run for both systems. The problem was it took PlayStation too long to get the momentum going, and by the time it got the momentum going, I don't think the core base was large enough to make it the dominant system. Because it really, I think PlayStation 3 really shone second year on its release, probably not the first year after, but the second year after was when it really started to hit a stride, and it became better and better. So it's good stuff. Rebel Dew says, Sony fan for life. Adam Krafkick says, who here has a PlayStation 3? If so, add me on PlayStation Network. You can add Adam Krafkick. His name's right in the chat. X-Lord Lightning. Microsoft is killing itself, I swear. First it's Windows 8, then it gets worse with Windows Blue, then comes the Xbox One that will absolutely impossible to use. I think the Xbox One will be a playable system. I'm not saying it's that bad. I just don't think there's any redeeming factors of it at this time. The problem is we don't know. They haven't confirmed this, and you have to assume if they're not coming out and saying the positive things about the system, then it's not going to actually happen. Unless this is all a marketing scheme, and they're getting people like me to get all riled up and frustrated, and then on June 11th, they're going to come out and say, fooled you, we're just kidding, that's not the case. That's just me being an optimist, because like I said, I'm a huge Xbox fan, but I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned with this new Xbox One system, even being able to be a sellable product in the current console market. And here's another thing. How do you get, I mean, they're obviously working something out with GameStop. How are you going to get vendors to sell this product if used games aren't available in the traditional way they've always been available? GameStop's going to have some kind of buttering up going on. Because if I was at GameStop right now and I'm like, wow, my company's profit margin is heavily based on the used game market. Why on earth would I even consider selling a Microsoft Xbox One when they have full control over the licensing and I'm basically going to be at their mercy as to whether I can make a profit anymore? Unless they have some special arrangement with these used game companies to be able to sell used games. I don't even know how that's going to work. If I was them, I'd say, no, the Xbox One, you don't want that. You want a PlayStation 4. Because when you come back in here to purchase a game used, I'll be able to sell you one. But like I said, until they reveal to us exactly how that's going to work, it makes me entirely suspicious. And I think rightfully so. Matthew Moore says, I agree. Plus, with the Steam box coming out, why is Microsoft even trying? Well, of course they should try. The Xbox is the most popular system in the United States. And it still is, in my opinion, the best console out there that for purchase as far as game availability and value for what you get. The Xbox 360 is amazing. That makes it that much harder to even think about moving to the Xbox One at this point in time. I swear MS-DOS gaming is 20 times easier than an Xbox 720. Yeah, that's true. Steambox will own, says Lord Lightning. Rebel Dew says, the Xbox looks like an upgrade TiVo 3.0. Yeah, the console doesn't look very well, but that's not that big of a deal to me. Brandon Horton, you just made my day. Here's an example of EA not taking care of their franchises. Mass Effect 3. They destroyed a title that was supposed to be the most epic final chapter in the trilogy. I nearly cried, Brandon. And I'll say that often. This was hands down the most, no, yes, it was the single most disappointing moment in my gaming life was the Mass Effect 3 fiasco. I had been following Mass Effect before 1 was even in development, when they were actually talking about rumors with BioWare. BioWare was my favorite game development company, by the way. Now it's Remedy and Rockstar. But BioWare was my single favorite development company, and the Mass Effect franchise was a work of art. It was the single best games. They were the single best games, in my opinion, they ever ever made. It was the epitome of BioWare. It was everything they'd been always working up to. It was a perfect product, and then it got crushed by corporate EA. So now you know why I talk heavily against EA, because this isn't the first time they've done this. They've done it to a number of companies in the past, and they will continue to do it. Sims, until the end of time. So, I'm with you on that one, Brandon Horton. Absolutely terrible, terrible news. But guess what, Brandon? There's good news. Thanks to my video guy, Chris Keyworth. I'm going to give you a shout out for this, Chris. Did you know that there's something called the Happy Ending mod for Mass Effect 3? It was released for the PC Origin version of Mass Effect 3. You can download this mod, and it will actually change the ending into an ending that is not only acceptable, but likable. And this was done by an independent individual or a team. So look up the Mass Effect 3 Happy Ending mod. It's called Mayhem, or M-E-H-E-M. Make sure you look that up. If you're a Mass Effect 3 fanboy, make sure you look it up. You'll be very excited to hear that. Rebel Do, Xbox. Hey, let's get Steven Spielberg on our Xbox presentation. That will attract people to buy our Xbox. Good point, Rebel Do. They made this big deal about having their own exclusive TV shows on the Xbox, which made me think, are they trying to compete with Netflix, who, by the way, is actually releasing Arrested Development this weekend? Awesome. In its actual 4th season. You can see that on Sunday. It's going to be awesome. And now it's like, now they're in the television market. You know, it's like, where's the emphasis going to really be here? I don't think it's a terrible idea to go into entertainment. I think the features they added for football and all that to the Xbox 360 was nice, but to make it the main emphasis of the system, not that big of a deal in my opinion. But it's an interesting idea, but let's not, you know, let's call it what it is. It's not exciting. It doesn't make me want to buy a gaming console for $400 just to watch a Halo TV series. That's just not enough. Rebel Do, the only thing interesting in the Xbox presentation was the dog in Call of Duty. I don't know about that. You know what else was awesome was that Remedy title. That Remedy is hands down one of my... If I buy an Xbox One, it'll probably be just for that game. Remedy is awesome. They did the original Max Payne franchise. They've done the Alan Wake games. This company makes outstanding games. They're my new BioWare, essentially. So, this game that's coming out for them, it's called Breaking... What's it called? Quantum... I think it's called Quantum Break. Let's see. Remedy... Quantum... What's it called? Remedy Entertainment. Quantum Break. Yes, and it will be an Xbox exclusive, unfortunately. But this is probably the single coolest thing that I saw at that entire Xbox reveal. A game. Oh, a game at an Xbox, at a gaming console reveal. So that was hands down my favorite thing in the entire thing. And unfortunately, it was just a trailer, so I wanted to see the gameplay graphics. But Remedy will not fail to deliver on that title. That company is absolutely incredible. But the Call of Duty stuff was great too. I do have a lot of respect for them looking more into storyline for the Call of Duty. It looks like they're putting a new spin on the story. I'm not buying for a minute that they didn't do Modern Warfare 4 because they wanted to reboot the franchise. I think they got into a lawsuit with Infinity Games. That's why they weren't able to make a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. So I think that's why they're actually rebooting the franchise. But I still think it looks pretty solid. Let's see what we got here. Adam Krafkick, PS4 also wants indie developers to make games for the PS4, unlike the Xbox One, which doesn't really want independent developers. Yeah, I just mentioned that earlier, and that's very true. They do not want independent developers on the Xbox One, or they don't have it set up yet. Brandon Horton says, let's just pray Sony leaves the freedom of access of used content to the consumers. I'm agreeing with you on that, too, because we haven't heard any solid information on the used game aspect of the PlayStation 4 just yet. One of the biggest problems with that is they've also, it's like, we're almost positive they're going to keep using the traditional, but they haven't really told us yet. I don't think we're going to know until June 11th at E3. But what they're kind of saying is, yeah, you'll still be able to bring your game to your buddy's house. You'll be able to play the used games. You know, that's what consumers expect. You know, they're saying it like it's just no big, yeah, you'll be able to play your used games. Why would we... You know, I don't understand what the question is. That's almost like how they shrugged it off, which makes me optimistic that, like, they're like, why would we do an online DRM system? Because I don't even think there's a need for it, in my opinion, in the console market right now. That you don't. How many of your buddies go out and steal a ton of Xbox 360 games? It's not worth the trouble, people. It's just not for consoles. PC, it made perfect sense, man. People, a baby could pirate a game on PC at that time, but it just doesn't make sense on a console. Spec Yes says, yes, Steam will use the Linux kernel, and I'm Ramsey Elmawordy, not Lawrence Eckert, by the way. Sorry, Ramsey. My bad. But it does use a Linux kernel. Awesome. Matthew Moore says, the Steam box does use a Linux kernel. That is correct. Community development from Linux means the manufacturer can save money by not having to pay for as many platform developers. Very exciting about Steam. Okay, that's probably one of the coolest things that's coming to PC gaming in quite some time. The idea that they can build Steam-based gaming systems off of this Steam box is very exciting for the PC gaming market. And we may see a revival of the PC gaming market after this whole fiasco has settled over the next 1 to 2 years. And I'm hoping that's true, because I still think PC gives you the best gaming experience. The reason people have been reluctant to use a PC is because it's not really a sit-at-your-couch type system. But the Steam box aims to fix that by giving you a box that sits on your entertainment center, and it'll actually allow you to connect it to your TV and do any kind of gaming right from your system. Let's see what we got here. By the way, Craig, give me your game tag. We can game together for the remainder of Microsoft heydays until the PS4 is released. Brandon Horton, my gamer tag is Revolver, REVOLVERCC, and kudos to the person who knows what that reference is. Brandon Horton says, if there was no PS4 announcement, I had to choose between Xbox One and Android's Ouya, or whatever it's called, I'd choose the Android gaming system. I'd probably go with PC. And I may still go with PC. After this whole console thing is settled, I may say, you know what? I ain't messing with it. Let them hash it out. I'll wait 2 years, and I'll just, once the dust has settled, I'll pick one of their systems then. Until then, I'm going to use a PC. Adam Crafted, Craig, it looks like there's an Apple Magic Mouse in front of your right hand. In front of my right hand? My right hand or this? It's not a Magic Mouse. It's actually my microphone. It's awesome. I love it. And I'm probably going to do a review on it soon, just so you guys can see it. And I'd love to do a review on it. Rebel Dew says, there are some people confused by the name Xbox One, thinking it was the first of Xbox or prequel to the first. What do you think of the name, Craig? I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. I think it's terrible in the sense of it seems like a regression rather than a progression of the system. I think they did it so people could coin it the One, and really that's kind of tacky now because it was cool back when it was on The Matrix. But now that we're talking about an Xbox gaming console that's supposed to be a progression to the actual 360, going from 360 to 1 doesn't really seem like much of an improvement. Also, the Xbox One tells me that they're trying to replace the original Xbox, which means it's a spiritual sequel to the original Xbox. But why would we want a spiritual sequel to the original Xbox when there's a 360 out there? The Xbox 720 made way more sense on every level whatsoever. And that's why we called it that, because really, it just makes sense. Another thing is, when you have an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4, psychologically, what does that tell you? Would you go with the 1 or the 4? Like, well, there's already been 4 revisions. Just like looking at iPhones. When am I going to buy the iPhone 1 or am I going to buy the iPhone 5? You know, it almost seems like it's had more work put into it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this has already gone through 3 different versions. It's like a subconscious thing. So we'll see how all that pans out. I don't know. Brandon Horton says, I don't normally high-five guys who admit to crying, but since it's from a video game that's specifically Mass Effect, you get a high-five. Thanks. Brandon Horton says, what's your opinion on the MMO Destiny, Craig? Okay. MMOs. Okay, massively online multiplayer games. This truly is gaming night, everybody. I have a very strong opinion about massive online games. I love massive online games, but the market has become saturated. The gaming market in general has become saturated. I come from a generation where good games came out few and far between, but you really didn't have a lot of games and a lot of content coming out at any given time. The average gamer right now is bombarded with game availability and game options. The mobile market is really going to hurt traditional gaming because it allows for not only ease of purchase, but reasonable cost, cross-platform availability, and it also allows for time-consuming entertainment, much like an MMO experience. What does this mean? It means that very few people are going to invest themselves as heavily into a game like they used to. Now, the problem is a lot of these game developers now have gotten onto the idea that they need to release a game along with more content, with more content, with more content, either along with the release or after the release of the game. Is it any surprise that all these companies have become very concerned or disappointed in the results of their content release on the expansion packs and the new content that's released through downloadable content? It's not a surprise. The average gamer, in my opinion, is exposed to far more available gaming content right now than they've ever experienced in the history of gaming. This is going to reach a breaking point at some point, and something's got to give. I have to say, right now, gaming is in a bubble. In my opinion, we're in a gaming development bubble. There's far more gaming content out there than there are gamers ready to play it and ready to experience them the way that they were supposed to be experienced. What this means is, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to the market. But something bad has got to happen to the market before things are kind of re-engineered and developed in a way to adjust to the gaming consumer. The consumers, I think, are going to become smarter. They're going to spend their times on the games that are worth their time, and that's essentially what's going to dictate what happens in the future of gaming. If a developer is working on a game for 4 years, but they can't get people to play it because it's a 1,000-hour game, you're going to see those games shrinking significantly because they can't get people to play the game for the 1,000 hours because there's just too much gaming content out there. What concerns me about this is the potential of having drive-by gaming become the mainstream for all gaming consoles and mobile devices because they all have this non-ending, mobile-based, MMO, dynamic, addictive features to it that will keep gamers from investing their times in games that actually end and actually are considered art, in my opinion. So MMOs are very, very interesting. I like MMOs. I think they're a cool idea, but they're so time-consuming, I think the average gamer is going to start shying away from them in the future. But there will always be a market for MMOs. Always. And I miss my original MMO experience when I played EverQuest. And I played World of Warcraft. It was great, but it wasn't as good as EverQuest. And then everybody who played World of Warcraft is going to say the same thing. Oh, it's not as good as World of Warcraft. I miss those days. Everybody loves their first time. That's just how it works. That's how everything works. Just like everybody talks about GoldenEye 007, and now everybody's talking about Halo, and now everybody's talking about Call of Duty. There really is. It's a game that appealed to a certain generation for the first time at the time it was released. So that's really what happens with games. But MMOs, there's just too many of them. There's just too many of them. The best part of MMOs was playing with your friends, but now everybody's playing something different, and I just don't think that they've got the same draw they used to. But maybe it's just me. Lawrence says, LMAO, I sent you a friend request right when you said your gamer tag. Awesome. I'll be sure to accept it next time I'm on Xbox, which I don't have much time for that these days. Adam Krafkic says, is the description what you mean by Apple lobbying? I meant to say Apple lobbying. That was actually an article I put in the PCM Tech Talk Live magazine. Apple's paying twice as much to lobby the government now, probably because they're under scrutiny for their tax evasion or their tax sheltering, which, whatever. You know, these big companies, lobbying should be illegal, universally illegal. No private company should ever be able to spend money in any way, shape, or form that impacts anybody in political office. Absolute insanity on every level. But you know why Apple does it? Because they have to. Because if they don't, the government bullies companies that don't lobby. It's a catch-22. These companies, it makes these companies look evil. Like Apple is evil because they're lobbying the United States government, where if they weren't lobbying the United States government would probably side with their enemies or their competitors and actually do things against Apple. So Apple, in an effort to defend itself against the U.S. government, has to drop massive amounts of money to lobby the U.S. government. Tell me this isn't a really messed up system right now. Absolutely disgusting. Spec Yes, I personally miss more of the single-player games. I agree, Spec Yes. The internet online stuff is all fun and games, but I do miss experiencing the single-player experience, which was truly a special experience for many people. Rebel Do says, I feel like playing Myst right now. Awesome. Very awesome. Matthew Moore says, my favorite game of all time I can still play on my Super NES and Sega. What is it? I want to know what it is. Is it Metroid? Because Super Metroid was amazing on Super NES. Oh, yeah. It wasn't on Sega, though, so that couldn't have been it. Adam Krafkic, I miss true co-op games, like from Uncharted 3. I don't know. I think I've liked where co-op games have come. Me and my buddy, my AV guy, Chris Keyworth, we play online games all the time through co-op, especially Gears of War and all these awesome Tom Clancy games. And they've got all these awesome co-op games now that I'm really excited about. That's kind of where they've gone with them. We can play it online with each other through live. I like that experience. Suppressed Coding says, does the Kinect have to be plugged into the One, or is it an option that just happens to be included? It does have to be included on the system, and it has to be plugged in. Talked about it earlier in the video. It has to be not only included, but it has to be activated. So it basically has to have power going to it and has to be able to actually, they haven't said this, scan the room. But it does have to be connected at all times, and it does have to be turned on. That is a requirement for the new Xbox system to play it. It's not an option. Lauren Sackert says, I think the Xbox One looks really sexy, but it still probably won't get it. Well, looks can be deceiving, but we don't really know what kind of games are going to happen or when they're going to come out. So we'll find out more about that later on. Rebel, Craig, when are you going to sell some shirts like the one you have on right now? Yeah, I was looking into that, but I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do it yet. I don't think I'm big enough. I'd like to do the YouTube merchant services, but I'm not big enough to get that. I think I have to have 50,000 subscribers. So get to work, people. But I thought about going through like maybe Zazzle or something and releasing it, but it might be pretty cool. You know, maybe have like $1 or $2 of it go to the show, things like that. Matthew Moore says, Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, Legend of Zelda, and Donkey Kong. These games never get old. As long as I still have these around, I'll be happy. And you will always have them around, Matthew Moore, because they will always be around because Nintendo never changes their model. I'm just kidding. Those games are all amazing. Super Nintendo was probably the best system of all time ever. So, Rebel Do is excited about Sonic the Hedgehog. Brandon Horton. It's an interesting point about gaming saturation. I can't tell you the last time I actually finished a title in its entirety. Well, it's because we're just over... You know, it's not because we don't have time. I mean, realistically, I mean, all these games don't end anymore. All these kids are playing Minecraft, or they're playing Call of Duty multiplayer, or they're playing MMOs, which don't have endings. And I think in the developer's mind, this is a good thing. We can keep them hooked. We can keep them playing our game, and they'll pay us monthly fees. But what they're really doing is they're creating like a market of oversaturation, so that, yeah, okay, this company's getting all this money from this game that's never ending, and it's got addictive properties in it. Now these developers somehow have to compete with that in grabbing those consumers away from that game long enough to play their game. But they can't make a 1,000-hour game that can compete with a game that never ends unless they shrink down their game in this competitive market. And mobile's only making this worse because mobile has all of these other games that are out there now that don't end, or they have the social experience and all that. I'm not saying it's bad for gaming in general. I'm just saying that gamers right now are oversaturated in the market. It makes it very difficult to be a stress-free gamer right now. You have to pick your games. It used to be like there was only a handful of good titles that came out in here, and you could play them all, and everybody would talk about them and talk about how great they are. It just doesn't happen anymore. It's unfortunate. So, looks like Rebel, looks like Adam Krafkick's interested in the T-shirts as well. Maybe I should look into this as a serious venue for the show. I never really considered it. I guess it'd be a good way for people to help the show grow because it, you know, the revenue would just go to the growth of the show. And I think I saw on Zazzle I can sell some pretty decent shirts for $20 a piece, I think. I think that's like the minimum that they allow me to sell them for. But that's what I would probably do. I'd probably keep it on the low side. Something like that. Brandon Horton says, what's up with Nintendo? Has the company taken the last breath with the Wii U, or do you think they can revive themselves? Well, Nintendo's not having any trouble in Japan whatsoever. The Wii U's doing amazing. Pretty much the Wii in general is doing amazing. And the Xbox sucks in Japan. And so, I mean, really, Nintendo as an American product hasn't done a very good job, especially with the Wii U. They've just stopped caring about third-party development support, and that really has hurt their entire franchise. Because what happens is that people get tired of playing the same game over and over again, and Nintendo wasn't historically a system that made its own games only. I mean, the same problem happened with Sega. So what really is happening here is that Nintendo's like, no, we're not going to pay developers to develop for our system. We're just going to... You know, if they want to develop for us, then it's their privilege to develop for us. We're not going to go out and hunt for the good titles. We're not going to pay for exclusives. We're not going to make sure... They're not playing the game. You see what I mean? They're not playing the political game along with the political climate, which, while that may be admirable, it does not get people to buy your system. At the end of the day, and I'm going to close with this, everybody, at the end of the day, all of this stuff aside, we could talk about how terrible the Xbox One was, how great the Xbox One was. We can talk about how terrible the PlayStation 4 is. We can talk about how great the PlayStation 4 is. Talk about how terrible the Wii U is, how great the Wii U is. Talk about how terrible the Steam Box is, how great the Steam Box is. But from gamer to gamer, what determines whether or not we're going to buy a system? It's going to be the games. And June 11th is going to finalize whether or not the Xbox One is going to be worth all the headaches or not. We will jump through the hoops upon hoops upon hoops to play those games. If the games are there. At the end of the day, that's all we care about. That's the only reason we buy the thing. That's the only reason we keep coming back. That's the reason we shell out 60, 70, 80, 90, 150 for collector's editions. It's never going to change. Gamers are always going to go where the games are. It's just a fact. Right now, PlayStation's winning. But on June 11th, the whole climate might change. We're just not going to know until we know what games are coming out. Because we can talk features, we can talk specs, we can talk licensing headaches all day long. But you know what? If a game is good enough, we're going to deal with all that. If Mass Effect 1 was coming out for the first time on the Xbox One, my dumb head would be in line the first day to buy it so I could purchase the Xbox One. Just like I saw that Remedy game and I'm like, ah, crap. Because I saw the Remedy game and I was like, everything about this Xbox One makes me not like it. But you know what? That game is probably going to be amazing. And I'm going to see trailers for it. I'm going to see gameplay footage for it. I'll be like, yeah, it does suck how they did the system, whatever, but I got to play that game. So hopefully it comes out on PC as well. But right now we just know it as an Xbox exclusive. Xbox exclusive. Oh, Xbox exclusive. We love it. Lawrence Eckert says, I was going to throw in a dirty comment when he said, I'm not big enough, but I want to be at your good graces. It was good enough. I liked it. Matthew Moore, N64 was pretty good too. I love the 64. I still remember playing the 64 for the first time. Actually, my buddy Chad Melenda, went to high school with him. He just jumped into this chat. I beat him by one day, beating Zelda, Ocarina of Time. It was awesome. But to be honest with you, the N64 was an awesome system. 3D for the first time, oh my God. That was an amazing experience. Hey Chad, welcome to the live stream. Rebel Do, is anyone still playing board games? Monopoly 4? I still play Monopoly. Now they have credit cards. What's up with that? Rebel Do says, no, that's what you said. All Day says, I view the Wii U kind of like when you say something stupid around friends and you made fun of you and you just kind of back up your tail between your legs. They'll be fine. I think the Nintendo will be fine. I just think they should, if they really wanted to be prominent in the U.S. market, they would go out and get some third-party support for their system. They just do not have it, and they do not care to go find it, because if they wanted to find it, they would have found it during the GameCube. They stopped even bothering with it at the tail end of the GameCube. They went through the entire Wii system without ever really going out for third-party support, so why should we expect it to be any different with the Wii U? Spec, yes, Nintendo could absolutely revive itself to put all the Pokemon games in one and call it Super Pokemon. I'd play it. No comment. Suppress Conan. On the subject of games that don't end, what do you think of esports? No idea what esports is. You mean the EA Sports? The announcement that they announced, like, ooh, Kinect interaction with football, which technically the new Madden had that, or Kinect interaction with FIFA, well, which technically I'm not from Europe, so I don't really care. But really, if the first selling point of your system is, we've got sports games, every other gamer on the planet goes, what? Where's Remedy? Where's Remedy? Where's what? That's pretty much what we do. That's pretty much how we do it. So, as of right now, the PlayStation 4 is winning by a long shot, but that doesn't mean they have the market. We're not going to know until the 11th of June, and that's when we're going to talk about it again. I'm done talking about it. We're done with talking about Xbox. This was the video. This was the Xbox discussion. This is all of my thoughts on it. They're not going to change. You can follow me on PCMTTL.com/community. I'll share my other thoughts with new ideas coming out, but until June 11th, it's pretty much not going to be talked about. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I've had enough of it. I've been saturated in it for 2 days, and I don't even want to read about it. I don't want to know anything more about it until June 11th, because until I know what games are coming out on it, it's not happening. It's not happening. So, thank you everybody for coming out to tonight's show. As always, this is the PCM Tech Talk Live, where we broadcast live Monday and Thursday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm working on offline content, so make sure you subscribe on the YouTube channel, because I'm going to be releasing the Faster 8 series soon. I'll be looking into some Linux and web development videos as well into the future. Also, make sure you join the community at PCMTechHelp.com/community. It is a free Google Plus community of over 400 members now. We're growing amazingly. We've only been going for about 4 months on the live stream, and it's doing really, really well. I have the best community on the internet, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because they will help you with any problems you might have, because a lot of them are smarter than me in a lot of ways. So I appreciate all your guys' continued support of the show. Thank you for coming out to tonight's episode. I hope my rants and raves about the Xbox One educated you a little bit. I probably annoyed you a little bit too, but hey, it is YouTube. That's kind of what it's there for sometimes. Thanks again, guys. I will see you at the community, PCMTechHelp.com/community. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys on Monday.